All right, before we jump into the race here, I want to talk a little bit about the setup. So first of all, super excited about the Fondo jersey I unlocked yesterday after the November Fondo. The frame I got, Canyon Arrow Road 2021, newer model, apparently the best one under level 20. And then I got the Zip 808s on for the wheel set. So excited to see how this goes, and all in all, been pretty happy with it. Let's jump in. All right, here we go. So strategy for this race is three things. The first is start really hard. It's important to put out high watts at the beginning. I have a decent FTP and especially a 15 second, so I really need to get up there above 500 watts for the start. Second strategy, stay with the front group. Don't lose them at any cost. And then the third is that you got to conserve energy. You got to sit in the draft. You got to use the power-ups strategically, and really you got to keep your heart rate as low as possible. So from the get-go, putting up a little bit over 500 watts, not bad. Decent start, kind of in the front pack. For some reason, it's not ranking the riders in the right like they typically do. Oh, there we go, 54th. So, I mean, I'm in the front, but it's clearly not accurate because it kind of cleared out 2 lines out of 68. But anyways, important to stay in the front here, especially for the first bit, especially if there's some sandbaggers and they're going to try to break away. You want to be in that front group. So if the race is kept super quick, then you're in with it. My heart rate's pretty high right now, 175, and putting out decent wattage, above 300. My FTP is about 300 to 315, depending on where you look at it. On Zwift Power, it's sitting at about 313, and not fully recovered. I wear a Whoop on my arm activity tracker, and it's telling me 47% recovery for the day based off my sleep and my strain from yesterday's Fondo. Good news is, jersey looks pretty sweet in the middle of the pack there, and I'm keeping up, still in the front group. The only thing that I'm concerned about right now is first kilometer in, and my heart rate's pretty high. This is an interesting part here. So the downhill and then uphill, good chance to, sit in the group on the downhill, especially if you're heavier. I think it helps you in the descent. And then you really got to power through that uphill if you want to take a few seconds off some of the opponents, some of the people in the back of the group. That's a good place to do it because not too much elevation here. That's, I think, the steepest part. So take what you can get if you have the legs. But you could see here, like, this effort is pretty crazy. Like, my heart rate, max heart rate about 200, but if I got to sit in for a 25-minute race with my BPM above 180, that's going to hurt. And I'm in a good position. Although it doesn't see places, you could see that I'm in a top 10, top 20 for now. But watts are going crazy. Like, I got to put over 300, some cases over near 350, over 350 to sit in this here. So race strategy, maybe I should have stayed back a little bit, but I'm kind of worried because it's going pretty quick. So again, the concerns around the heart rate. So sitting at about 185 and, hurting. And what's even worse is that our group is starting to stretch out. You'll see, like, geez, like there's a risk that it's going to turn into a few groups. And going back to the 3 goals of the race, like, we got to stay with the front group. So this is an interesting point where my heart rate is creeping near 190. I'm putting over 400 watts in, and we're starting to lose the front of the group here. So this is kind of a critical point because you could lose the race, especially if you don't, if you aren't in the front pack. A move needs to be made, especially if I'm going to stay in this race for any chance at top 20, I'd say. So if I want to do that, I got to start putting out some power. Heart rate may have to touch 190, and I got to get back with this front group, stop it from stretching out. Undraftable, didn't really do anything, but huge effort here. Heart rate at 188, watts over 300, over 350. If I don't catch these guys, it's done, and the race isn't even halfway. So, putting hard power in the pedals, heart rate near 190 now, and I got a little bit of the draft with this guy that I could hop on his wheel, and it looks like there's a few that are going with me to catch this group, because, not even halfway in and we're already going to lose the front group. Bad news bears. So good news is I do end up catching the group. A few of us have stringed together, created a little bit of draft, a little bit of teamwork to get back with this group. But the thing is, the energy spent on here, going back to the third rule, it's kind of tough to push through, especially now that we're not even halfway. But we catch this group pretty well, not with the lack of energy used. Burnt quite a few matches on this one. Not ideal, so I try to sit back in the group, but it's a problem with balancing it, because you want to sit in the middle, but it's tough to do. So you end up doing these bursts of power to catch the front group again, and then take the power away, and then you get to the back of the group again, and then have to put in a burst of power. So it's not ideal from a strategy and energy conservation standpoint, but it got the job done for this race. Again, heart rate super high. I'm supposed to be in the middle of the group conserving energy here, but the group is just so fast. Power up time, hit the lottery. Let's see what we got. Aero's pretty good. I'm happy with Aero. The question is, do I save it for the final sprint, or do I spend it before then? I know there's at least one more power up coming. And race strategy says maybe keep it for the sprint. It's such a good power up, but I'm gassed. My body's telling me use it now. Try to get the heart rate down a bit. Didn't really work because everyone else used their power ups too, and it's already going so quick. And again, I'm holding on by threads here. Heart rate's at 190, just absolute ridiculous. This front group is blowing by me. They're stringing out. It's, the gaps are opening up, and no riders are really passing me, so I'm kind of at the front of what would eventually be a second group. But at 190 heart rate, putting out over 400 watts, I don't have the energy. So holding on for dear life here. I just put a crazy effort coming up here to just hold on to a group at all. So I'm going over 350, over 400, over 450 watts at one point there. Just to string through and hold on by my dear life with any group I can get to. And it's looking like it's going to be these 3, 4, maybe 5 guys. It's essentially this group and these 5 guys until the end. But what's interesting here, you'll see it when it gets down to the last kilometer, but we're kind of going to trade back and forth, and we do a pretty good job of working together to try to get through this. So half a kilometer remaining, it says 0.5. And watch what happens here. 0.4, we hit the downhill uphill. I use the featherweight too early. Right, so I'm going real time here, 1 speed. And then what happens? It goes to 1,500 meters. Isn't that a kilometer and a half? It just told me that there was 300 meters remaining. I'm thinking that the finish is coming up. So I start to really burn all the matches on this effort here. And then you'll see the finish line, it just disappears. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know where the finish line is. And I'm redlining here. I'm in the red zone. 193 heart rate, and I'm just going full gas here, hoping that the finish line is in sight. And then on the map, you'll see there's a few green dots up ahead. So there's an opportunity to catch. But 195 BPM, it's not sustainable. This guy's catching me on the behind. I think we could see the finish in distance here. I try to sit in the draft for a little bit to get the heart rate down, not happening. So you could finally see the finish. I'm going to go and put in my final effort here. Over 300 watts. Buddy's had an Aero boost in his back pocket the entire second lap here, and he's going to just use it to flush out, get a few bike lengths ahead of me. He just takes the finish over me. But I didn't place too bad. Here it says 24th, but Zwift Power was a 21st or 20th win. all in all, good race. Building some decent power and endurance, and I might post a few more of these. Add me on Zwift. Let me know what you think.